Hey there everybody, today I tackle one of the most common questions I get from my students in my graphic design and digital multimedia classes, and that is, how do I make a t-shirt? I'm going to go over some of the most important information that you need to know, and actually it's very common knowledge that's out there for you guys already, so stay tuned and check this episode out. Mr. Pappas, can I make a t-shirt? Will you make a t-shirt for me? Hey there everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Mr. Pappas Teach Summer Edition. I kind of going to switch up some gears this week and kind of go back to some of the review style questions and answer a question that I get a ton of the time from students in my digital multimedia class, my graphic design courses, and even just random students who walk through my classroom that hear that I'm good with computers and I do a lot of the graphic design stuff, and that is, how do you make a t-shirt? Now, while I kind of have to preface this, the video itself isn't going to go over the in and outs of t-shirt making. You got to take my class to do that. I do want to address one of the biggest questions that I get, and really probably the most easiest one to explain in video format, and that is, what do you need to make a t-shirt? Obviously there's some hardware things that you need to go out and get. You need to have blank t-shirts, but what goes into the actual making of a t-shirt? So check this stuff out. The biggest question, or the biggest answer that I can give to people, is you need to understand what you're going to make for your design and how that design is going to be created using a computer. Yeah, you can go and draw stuff out, there's no problem with that, but eventually you're going to somehow have to digitalize that design that you're looking to somehow print or place onto your t-shirt or your fabric banner or whatever it might be that you're looking for. And this brings us to understanding two specific file formats. So let's take a look as to what those two file formats are all about. Check this out. The two different file types that you guys need to be aware of are vector files and rasterized files. Two different, just two, not double all that. Don't do the math. You can do a Google search on those two different files, and there's going to be a bunch of definitions that get thrown your way. I did a quick Google search as to what a vector file actually is. And you can look at this definition right there. It says vector files are images that are built by mathematical formulas and established points on a grid. Raster files are blah, 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 blah. What the heck does that even mean? Well, let me break this down for you guys really, really simple. Most people know, even if you haven't taken a computer class, that graphics, when they're created digitally, are made up by little dots or points on a computer screen. We know those as pixels. And obviously, the more pixels or dots that you have in an image, probably the better that image is going to look, the crisper that image is going to look, whether it goes and shows up on a screen like a smartphone or an iPad, or it gets printed out on a big printer. The more pixels you have, the better your image is going to look. But one thing is clear: when you have a pixelated image, an image created by pixels, you can zoom in and you'll always see those dots. I mean, you can use a image editing program like Photoshop and keep zooming in, and you'll eventually see those dots. You can't get rid of them. They're always there because that's how your image is created, right? Now, vector images are a little bit different. Can be confusing because all of these image styles are created on a computer and they're made digitally, but here's where vector images are a little bit different. If you guys can remember taking math class maybe in junior high or high school, when you started to learn equations and you started to see letters and crazy little formulas made up to create I guess, geometric pictures. That's the idea behind a vector image. A vector image or a vector file is really just a mathematical equation that we never really actually see, but it gets created inside of a computer program and then it spits out what the image actually looks like. Vector images are created by a whole bunch of math behind the scenes that we don't necessarily get to see, but the most important part to what these images are all created about is that you can zoom in or out, you can magnify, you can enlarge these images or shrink these images down as far as you want, and you will not lose any type of quality. Here's a vector image of my Mr. Pappas Teach logo. Now, at first glance, you probably can't tell that it's a vector image. You're probably looking at it saying, I don't understand what the whole point is. But trust me, this is a vector image. Now, one of the most popular vector editing and creating programs out there is Adobe Illustrator. So I've got this program opened up in Adobe Illustrator, and you'll notice it looks pretty much like a graphic that you would create or download from the internet, and it's really kind of difficult to see anything. But I want to zoom in and show you guys. Let's kind of go in a place where you might be able to see it a little bit better, this graphic element here. I'm going to keep pressing the shortcut for zoom in, and you'll notice the more and more I zoom in, obviously the larger it gets on my screen, but you'll also notice the bigger this image gets, we don't technically see any pixels. It's still just a line, and I can keep zooming in. I'm at 6,000% right now, which I can't even really quantify in my head as to how zoomed in that really is, but you'll notice there's absolutely no dots on the screen. And why is that? Well, again, it's a mathematical formula that every time I click the zoom in button, that mathematical formula is changing every time I zoom in or every time I zoom out, because there are no pixels in this image. It's just numbers that are converted into graphic elements. Now we'll switch gears here and we'll bring up the same exact logo. I'm bringing this image open in Photoshop, a very, very popular image editing program, to show you guys what rasterized files would look like if you blow them up and if you zoom in. And basically a rasterized file is just a file that is made up of pixels. And after I click the zoom in button a couple times, really not much changes. But in and around the third or fourth zoom in, you might see on the screen that things start to get a little bit blurry. And as I continue to press the zoom in, now you can start to see a grid. I'll move up here towards the edges, and you'll see on your screen there that actually those lines are made up of different color squares or dots, right? And if I zoom in really, really close, you'll see that really these boxes are the pixel itself making or creating the image. Now, you're probably watching this video saying, well, what's the main point and why should I have to care about all of this? Well, if you're wanting to create a t-shirt, probably one of the things that you're going to need to be aware of is whatever design goes on your t-shirt is going to have to change with the size of the t-shirt. The other thing is you're going to want to have probably the best quality artwork for your t-shirt as possible. Now, only one of these files are really the best ones to use when creating artworks that are going to be printed or put onto t-shirts, and that's a vector file. Vector files, no matter how big you scale them out or how small and tiny you make them, never will lose any of their quality because they're not made of pixels. They're not made of those little dots or square boxes that you previously saw earlier. They're made of a mathematical equation. So every time we make it bigger and we kind of shrink it down smaller, that equation changes, but no dots get edited. If you were to bring it into Photoshop, if you were to take an image and bring it into Photoshop, there's a number of different things that you would have to be aware of. You would have to be aware of how big the resolution is. You'd have to be aware of how many dots are in the artwork that you're using. And these are things that a lot of people don't really even know about when they're handing me artwork looking for some design to be printed onto a t-shirt. Now, to learn Now, to learn vector image editing, to learn Illustrator, or to go out there and create your own artwork on these types of programs, it's not really that hard. There's plenty of courses that are out there online that you can sign up for. Students that are enrolled in my graphic design courses, we look at that stuff and we think of, and address that curriculum. But I have to admit, if you're looking to try and create things that are going to be printed on t-shirts, if you're looking to try and print things for commercial uses on banners or big large signs, vector images are the way to go. Now, I know there's probably going to be someone out there that says, well, no, you can do just as good with a Photoshop file or an image editing file, and that's true. Each one of these programs do have their benefits and their drawbacks, but specifically speaking, if you're looking to make t-shirts, designs that get printed on some sort of apparel, the best way to go is vector images. I hope this video helped you guys out in understanding the difference between the two and where to really go in and start. If you're a student in my classes, I look forward to teaching you that this year, whether it's in person or digitally in our online classrooms. I also look forward to showing you guys how I print some t-shirts here in our house during the summer hours when I'm doing work for other jobs. I hope this video was informative. I hope you guys got a little bit of information from that. Of course, I tried to keep this quick, so I probably missed some very specific details, but if you like what you see, leave a comment, subscribe, press the follow button, like key, whatever it is that's down there. I appreciate all the feedback, and you guys stay safe, have fun, be good to each other, and I'll see you guys next week. My chair is moving on its own. Why isn't? Am I rotating? Why am I rotating? Anyways, Mr. Pappas, can I make a t-shirt? Will you make a t-shirt for me? Got that flow. Got those beautiful locks.